Good evening. I plead ignorance of your problems as realities. I do not deny that you feel them, that you see them, that you have named them and stayed up nights with them. I only confess that I know nothing of them as something. The word is grace. The word is grace. And from the standpoint of grace, we begin here. No, your problem isn't a thing. It is not a substance. It is not a power. The life of it is the life you have lent it by believing there is a power beside God. You see, we are not going to argue with you. We are not going to make light of your tears, nor are we going to slap a smile over your pain and call it faith. We are going to be taught out of fear, not argued out of it. And the teaching begins with the first refusal. Refuse another power. I am the Lord, and there is none else. There is no God beside me, says the prophet. Hear it again as if for the first time, none else. If you will let that sentence enter, really enter, you will feel something begin to loosen in the chest, because whatever you have been naming a crisis cannot be a sovereign beside God. Now, I know the appearance insists on itself. It stamps its foot and cries, look at me. I am deadline. I am diagnosis. I am debt. And you have been trained by the nations of the world to bow to anything that shouts. But we are not the nations of the world. We are learning the kingdom way. The kingdom way is not positive thinking. It is not denial of human sensation. It is a doctrinal pivot. God is the only power, and therefore all other claims to power stand, stripped the instant you withhold your consent. Let us put it this way. A shadow on the wall seems solid until you bring the lamp nearer and see it as nothing more than the angle of light. So it is with what you call a problem. Its substance is consent. Its mass is attention. Its voice is the echo of your own belief returning to you with authority. You loaned it. Withdraw the loan, not by might nor by power, but by my spirit, saith the Lord. If it is by spirit, then no other might, no other pressure, no other resistance has any standing in the court of reality. The word is grace. Thy grace is my sufficiency. Thy grace is sufficient for me. As we speak it, we are not pleading for rescue from a superior foe. We are acknowledging that there is no foe. Do you see the tenderness and the firmness in that? It is tenderness toward your trembling and firmness toward the lie. Hear, O Israel, the Lord our God is one Lord. One, not two. Not one on Sundays and another on Mondays when the bills arrive. One. So I say to you with love and with the authority of what we have seen again and again, refuse the title problem its throne. Do not crown it. Do not carry it through the streets of your mind as if it has earned a parade. Stand still for a moment, just a moment, and let the sentence be your shelter. God is the only power. The moment you take that stand, you will not need to fight. You will witness a quiet undoing. The edges soften. The panic loosens its grip. It is the beginning of the end of fear, not because the picture has changed yet, but because the power behind the picture has been disrobed. We will, in the hours ahead, learn how this refusal grows into a life, how take no thought liberates tomorrow, how grace arrives as fulfillment, how prayer becomes communion instead of begging. For now, take this first step as you would take a hand in the dark, gently, surely. Whisper if you must. No, there isn't another power here. And let that be the dawn. Now, if we are going to deny the throne to the word problem, we must ask quietly, almost as a physician would, what is this thing made of? Let us put it this way. A problem is a package. It comes with a picture, something the eyes or the imagination can stare at. It includes a prediction, some tomorrow that is dark, some outcome marching toward you with drums. And finally, it carries a demand for fear. Pay me attention, pay me reverence, rearrange your minutes and your breathing for me. That is the package. The unpaid bill on the table is the picture. The whisper, you will be evicted, is the prediction. The tightening in the chest is the fear payment it demands. The report with numbers is the picture. This will end you is the prediction. The worship of dread, that is the toll it seeks. You see, wrapped in that package is always a theology, always the assumption of a second power. Chance, disease, economy, a board of directors, a relative's temper, the weather. One of these is being brought to your altar for tribute. And here we bring the teaching as a sword that is mercy. If it has power to destroy, it must be a power. And we have already conceded there is only one. Hear, O Israel, the Lord our God is one Lord. And again, there is no power but of God. If there is only one, then what is this other claimant doing in the temple of your thought receiving sacrifice? No. That other claimant is not a power. It is an appearance offering itself as a god, and it lives by your reverence. Let us distinguish, then, between appearance and power. Appearances come and go. They change shape, they flare and fade, they do not write law. The ocean may rage today, and still must bow to the moon's quiet pull. It does not create law, it obeys law. Conditions may multiply or diminish, but they do not establish your identity. They do not ordain your destiny, and they do not manufacture your supply. Be still and know that I am God. Not be frantic and fix. Be still and know. When you are still, you see that the picture does not create your being. Your Father knoweth what things ye have need of before ye ask him. That is law. That is identity. That is destiny. The picture is, at best, a weather report. It is not climate. It is not covenant. It is not the word of God to you. Now, what animates the picture? Belief, consent. You give it your breath and then marvel that it looks alive. You light the candle under its chin and jump at the mask. Fear, then, is not your protection. Fear is worship of a supposed opposite. It is the first commandment inverted. Thou shalt have no other gods before me. When you fear disease, you have permitted disease to occupy the seat of law. When you fear a man, you have named him your source, your judge, your executioner. Do you see? Fear is a sacrament in the church of a second power. It is devout, it is regular, it kneels every hour, and it receives exactly the communion it serves. Agitation, division, and more pictures. This is why we do not begin with a fixing of appearances. That is combat on the wrong field. We begin with withdrawing consent. We begin with unmasking the implied second power. The inner work sounds like this. No. You are a picture and a prediction demanding fear, and I withhold my worship. God is the only power here, not by might, nor by power, but by thy Spirit. You see, we are not pretending the envelope is not on the table. We are refusing to acknowledge it as lawgiver. We are not denying the sensation in the body. We are denying that sensation the right to define life. We are not arguing with the boss. We are declining to enthrone the boss as source. And as you do this, There is a quiet thing that happens, so quiet you may miss it if you love drama. The chords of fear slacken. The prediction loses its trumpet. The picture is still a picture, but it is no longer a God. Except the Lord build the house, they labor in vain that build it. So our labor is not the frantic hammering at windows. Our labor is consent, withdrawal, stillness, recognition. Thy grace is my sufficiency. Thy grace is sufficient for me. In that grace, appearances will come and go as clouds over the sun. But the sun is not in dispute. It shines. It warms. It governs days and seasons. It does not negotiate with fog. Hold this definition with you as you walk through your rooms tonight. A problem is a picture wed to a prediction, demanding fear, implying a second power. Your practice is to unwed them. Let the picture be only a picture. Cancel the wedding license signed with your anxiety. Say, I do not consent to another power. No consent to chance. No consent to disease. No consent to economy. No consent to man as source. God is the only power. And having said it, be still. Be still long enough to taste that it is true. From that taste, we will, in our next step, learn what it means to take no thought. And you will see how tomorrow's tyrant has no army once today's worship is withdrawn. Now we come to the case text, the dividing line between the nations of the world and the kingdom of grace. Listen as if you had never heard it. Let it come like water over a desert stone. Take no thought for your life, what ye shall eat, neither for the body, what ye shall put on. Consider the ravens, for they neither sow nor reap, which neither have storehouse nor barn, and God feedeth them. How much more are ye better than the fowls? Consider the lilies, how they grow. They toil not, they spin not. And yet I say unto you, if then God so clothe the grass, how much more will he clothe you, O ye of little faith? For all these things do the nations of the world seek after. And your Father knoweth that ye have need of these things. Fear not, little flock, for it is your Father's good pleasure to give you the kingdom. You see, the whole of grace is standing there in the open, and our hearts have been trained to pass by. Take no thought is not negligence. It is not laziness. It is not a license to ignore the mail or sleep through appointments. No. Take no thought is the refusal to worship tomorrow. It is the end of treating tomorrow as a God whose favor must be purchased today by fear. Tomorrow is not the arena where God might fail and so must be bribed with anxiety. Tomorrow is God's. This is the day which the Lord hath made. We will rejoice and be glad in it. The nations of the world seek because they live by the logic of two powers, today's conditions and tomorrow's threat. The kingdom rests because it lives by the logic of one power, the Father who knows. Anxiety, then, is not protection. It is liturgy. It is the daily ritual by which we grant power to conditions and burn incense before outcomes. Every what if is a little prayer to a false god, and each tense breath is the amen that seals the covenant. Do you see how innocent it looks and how religious it feels? We think we are being responsible. We are in truth being devout at the wrong altar. Thou shalt have no other gods before me. To take thought for tomorrow is to seek tomorrow as God. To take no thought is to bow only to the Father's knowing. Security in the kingdom is not accumulated control. It is present communion with the source that includes provision. Your Father knoweth that ye have need of these things. If he knows, then knowledge in God is supply unfolding. Awareness at the center becomes appearance at the circumference. We are not commanding outcomes. We are consenting to presence. Thy grace is my sufficiency. Thy grace is sufficient for me. In that grace, a task never arrives without its provision. A journey never begins without its fare. A calling never speaks without the breath to answer. Grace is fulfillment, not fragments scattered that you must glue together with worry. Let us put it this way. To take thought is to lay bricks on a house God is already building, and to fear that if you stop laying, the roof will fall. Except the Lord build the house, they labor in vain that build it. We do not stop acting. We stop worshiping our acting. We do not stop caring for the day's duties. We stop crowning them as law. We rise. We dress. We answer the call before us. And we do so without the lash of what if. Because our Father knoweth. The lilies are not idle. They are yielded. The ravens are not negligent. They are kept. This becomes very practical in the moment you feel that old drum of tomorrow begin. Your heart starts to rehearse lack, to bargain with next week, to calculate and recalculate. Stop. Be still. Say within, no, no, I do not worship tomorrow. God is the only power, and God is now Father. Thy knowing is my provision. Thy presence is my safety. Thy grace is my sufficiency. Rest the mind in that communion until the breath returns to normal and the chest unknots. In that rest, ideas come, steps appear, help arrives not as the tribute that fear extorted, but as the fruit that presence bore. If God is truly Father, then the childlike stance is not bargaining, it is expectancy. Fear not, little flock. Childlike does not mean childish. It means you have ceased to be the nations of the world within your own breast. It means you have consented to be kept by one. We will, in our next step, correct the begging habit that sneaks into prayer, but first let this kingdom logic settle into your bones. Take no thought is the practical proof that one power thinking ends the tyranny of tomorrow. Tomorrow cannot govern you when your consent is withdrawn today, and when tomorrow arrives, it arrives as today again, still God, still grace, still sufficient. Now we make the correction that love itself requires. Let us put it this way. If in your own home, under your own roof, your little one rose each morning, knelt at the kitchen door, and with trembling voice begged, "Mother, please, please, may I have breakfast today?" Would you not feel your heart break? Would you not say, "Child, what have I taught you? This is your house. This is your table. This is your bread." Wouldn't you consider it almost a sin, not against you, but against the love that has already prepared the meal that the child believed breakfast must be won by pleading? You see, petitionary prayer for supply is that picture writ large. It is a subtle accusation that God is withheld, that love is a variable, that the principle of life is capricious and must be convinced. No, no, that is not our God. Your Father knoweth what things ye have need of before ye ask him. Do you feel the shock of that? Let it be a kind shock, a holy correction, not a whip. The sin is not that you have prayed with tears. God knows the nights. The sin is the theology beneath the tears, the acceptance of separation as a fact, the enthroning of lack as law, the confession that another power has set its hand upon your table and that God must wrest it back if you are convincing enough. That is the nations of the world praying inside the sanctuary of your heart. For after all these things do the nations of the world seek. But fear not, little flock. We are not beggars at our Father's door. We are heirs within his house. All that I have is thine. When you say, "Give me," Hear how the words lay a track between you and God, as if distance were true and time were needed and evidence must be produced. But in the kingdom, distance is the first illusion healed. Supply is not out there. God is not later. Grace is not a shipment delayed at customs. Grace is fulfillment. So we exchange the old prayer habit for the prayer that is communion. We do not say, give me. We say, open me. We do not say, send light. We say, illumine me. We do not command outcomes. We consent to presence. Seek ye first the kingdom of God and his righteousness, and all these things shall be added unto you. You see, even there, the order is love's order. Kingdom first, things added, not things first, never conditions first. Try it the next time the old vocabulary rises. Your lips start to form. Lord, I need, stop, be still. Say within, Father, you know, thy grace is my sufficiency. Thy grace is sufficient for me. Open my eyes to what already is. Open my heart to what already flows. Show me the bread that is here, because you are here. Sit in that, not as a technique to get a result, but as a homecoming to recognize the result already included in God's being. Except the Lord build the house, they labor in vain that build it. We are ceasing vain labor, not ceasing holy work. The holy work is recognition, communion, agreement with the one. And as recognition dawns, the picture called problem loses its bench and its robe. The courtroom empties. The accuser is left without a law to appeal to. Hear me gently, firmly, asking God for what the Father already knows. To give is the hidden admission that another power governs supply. Do not make that admission. Withdraw that consent. In the silence where give me becomes open me, you will feel the weight shift, a warmth, a rightness, often so quiet you'll miss it if you prefer drama. The heart settles into the fact that there is no distance to cross, no table to beg at, no reluctant parent to persuade. There is only God as the life of you, God as the law of sufficiency, God as the presence, that is the provision. Prayer becomes not a campaign, but a communion. It becomes a light turned on within, and with a light on, the shadow problem cannot hold its trial. It is exposed as a mistaken witness, rehearsing a story that never had jurisdiction over a child in the Father's house. The word is grace. The word is grace. Hear it until it settles into the very rhythm of your breath. Thy grace is my sufficiency. Thy grace is sufficient for me, not somewhat sufficient, not occasionally sufficient, not sufficient if the stars align, sufficient. My grace is sufficient for thee. You see, sufficiency in God is not a patch on a leaking roof. It is an entire house raised by a wise builder. Sufficiency in God is fulfillment. Let us put it this way. When grace brings a task, grace brings the total. The call and the capacity arrive as one thing. The assignment and the anointing are of one cloth. When grace says, go, it places the fair in your hand. When grace says, speak, it breathes the word through you. When grace says, build, it lays the plan within and the timber without. When grace says, wait, it folds patience into your bones and surrounds you with quiet timing. Grace includes wisdom to see, light to take the next step, companions for the road, favor where favor is needed, and rest so that the doing is not done with a clenched jaw. Thy grace is my sufficiency. Thy grace is sufficient for me. The nations of the world live by partial gains and anxious patching. They get the job, but not the joy. They secure the house, but cannot find a home in it. They acquire the medicine, but not the healing. They collect the applause and lose the peace. They haul in the net, and the net tears. Then they scurry with thread and needle, bargaining, borrowing, begging the corners to meet. No, no, that is not the kingdom's way. The Lord is my shepherd. I shall not want. Not want in part, not want for bread while starved of courage, not want for a garment while naked of wisdom. He maketh me to lie down in green pastures. He restoreth my soul. Do you hear the completeness? Lead, feed, restore. That is fulfillment. I remember well, we have seen it so often that it has ceased to surprise, and yet it still warms us. There was a woman who felt pressed to take her aging father into her small apartment while holding a difficult position in a busy office. The picture screamed, impossible, and the prediction drew a map of collapse. She sat very still and whispered, Father, thy grace is my sufficiency. Show me what is included. In 2 days, a neighbor, unprompted, offered afternoons with the old gentleman because her own afternoons were lonely. The employer, moved for reasons he himself could not explain, shifted her hours to fit the care. A sibling who had been distant felt a nudge to share expenses. It did not come by pleading with people. It came by consenting to presence. The task and the way were one. Grace does not dribble salvation as a reluctant spigot turned off and on by our good moods or bad. Grace is a river from a hidden spring that does not run dry. Grace supplies, and the supply does not demand tribute. Grace protects, and the protection does not make you small or suspicious. Grace guides, and the guidance is gentle enough to be missed if you insist on thunder. Grace maintains, carrying what it begins, so you need not clutch. Grace restores, putting back what fear imagined it stole, and more besides, without bargaining, without strain, without the whip of what if. And here is the bridge that closes the gap. If grace is fulfillment, then a problem cannot be a power. At most, it is an interpretation, a verdict that fulfillment is absent. It is an altar built to the God of fragments. Do you see why we refuse another power? We will not worship lack as law, nor bow to a story that says the Father issues assignments without bread for the journey. The Lord will perfect that which concerneth me. Perfection here does not mean flawless marble. It means completion brought through to fulfillment by the one who began it. So when the call comes, whether to pay a bill, to mend a relationship, to start a work, to endure a night, stop letting the mind run ahead with scissors, cutting the task away from the provision. Be still. Say within, Father, where is the included way? Open my eyes to the sufficiency already present. Thy grace is my sufficiency. Thy grace is sufficient for me. Wait until the warmth of that truth settles into the belly. Then move as you are moved. Ideas will come without strain. Help will appear without tricks. Strength will rise without clenched teeth. For in this kingdom, the voice that calls is the hand that carries. The command contains the capacity. The day holds its own bread. And the old tyrant called problem fades to what it always was, a shadow thrown by the belief in two powers, dispersed by the light of one. If grace is fulfillment, then we must correct the point from which we expect fulfillment to arrive. Here is the rule. Simple, uncompromising, and kind. We do not look to each other for anything, we look to God for it. Every good gift and every perfect gift is from above and cometh down from the Father of lights. You see, the nations of the world look to man whose breath is in his nostrils. They study faces for favor. They calculate hands for help. They fear the turning of human moods as if weather controlled the sun. No, no. Cursed be the man that trusteth in man, and maketh flesh his arm. Blessed is the man that trusteth in the Lord. This is not to despise man. It is to honor God as cause, and man as instrument. Let us put it this way. God is the spring, people are the pipes. God is the sun, people are the windows. When we remember that, the light can pour, the water can flow, and gratitude can be pure without bondage. But the minute we crown the pipe as source, we kneel to it. We fear its rust. We resent its shutoff. We attempt to bribe the plumber of circumstances. And in so doing, we crimp the very hose we hope to drink from. Attachment to a person as source is the hand that ties the knot. Non-attachment, born of recognition, God alone as power, is the hand that loosens it. Thy grace is my sufficiency. Thy grace is sufficient for me. Trace your problems, and you will find most of them are misplaced sourcing. The job is not your source. The job is a channel. When you make it a source, every corporate email becomes a threat, and every rumor a prophecy. The spouse is not your source of love or security. The spouse is an instrument through which love may sing. But if you enthrone him or her as the fountain, you must police their moods, chain their freedom, and call it devotion. The client is not your bread. The client is a window in this season through which bread appears. The doctor is not your life. The physician is a useful instrument by which wisdom may be applied, but life is God. Even the practitioner, the minister, the teacher, do not make a god of any channel. I am the Lord. That is my name. And my glory will I not give to another. To ascribe source to the channel is to steal God's glory and then dread losing it. This is why our practice includes a holy non-decision. Do not decide who or what must be the avenue. Do not say, through this employer, through that uncle, through this donor, through this clinic. No, no. Cease ye from man, whose breath is in his nostrils. Let grace choose its own channels. Your word within becomes very simple. Father, I look to thee alone. Choose thine own instrument, thy own time, thy own way. Keep me free from preference and fear. Then you go about your day, doing the work before you with excellence, loving the people near you with freedom, and you watch. Often the help will come from the pipe you expected. Often, startlingly, it will come from a direction your strategy had forbidden. A man loses a client, and in the same week, a former colleague, out of the blue, opens a wider door. A woman's appointment is canceled, and the neighbor steps in with precisely the care needed. The check you dreaded never arrives because the debt, unknown to you, was forgiven. It was not your scheming. It was not your groveling. It was God, and people were instruments. Now, this does not make you indifferent to people. It makes you free with people. You may thank the instrument without owing the instrument your soul. You may pay the doctor and still know your life is in God. You may honor the employer and not tremble before his frown. You may cherish the spouse and not bind him or her to be your oxygen. Do you feel how the air clears when the channel is not a god? Resentment begins to lose its leverage because you have ceased to place your destiny in another's hand. Fear softens because another's refusal cannot dam the river of grace. Owe no man anything but to love one another. That is, channels without chains, gratitude without bondage, cooperation without idolatry. Hold this stance daily as a quiet covenant. Father, thou art my source. Bless every instrument you employ, and if the instrument change, thou changest not. Jesus Christ, the same yesterday and today and forever. Supply may shift windows, but light is steady. As this becomes real, you are ready for the next liberating act, not as a slogan, but as a lived freedom. Loose him and let him go. And you will find that as you loose people from being the power behind your peace or pain, the chains on your own wrists fall with theirs. Now we take the step that breaks the spell. Hear it as a command given not to corpses and grave clothes only, but to your thought. Loose him and let him go. Loose her. Loose them and let them go. Say it until it becomes the rhythm of your inner hands. Releasing knots you had forgotten, you tied. Loose him from being the power behind your peace. Loose her from being the cause of your pain. Loose them from owing you, fixing you, validating you, rescuing you. You see, when you bind a person to your well-being, you place a crown on a channel and name it source. You forge a chain in your own basement and then complain of the weight. No. We are through with that worship. God is the only power. And where God is the only power, people are free to be instruments without being idols. Let us put it this way. Every grievance is a collection notice sent to a human debtor for a bill that belongs to God. You owe me apology. You owe me security. You owe me opportunity. You owe me the missing years. And so the ledger grows and the courtroom in the breast stays in session, and we wonder why the problem has power. The problem borrows its breath from that ledger. It lives because you keep mailing invoices to man and waiting at the mailbox of flesh. Stop the mail. Agree every day that no man owes you anything, no debt, no bondage, no silent contracts. Owe no man anything but to love one another. There is your daily agreement. Make it in the morning when you lace your shoes. Today I release all men and women from being the source of my good or the author of my harm. Father, thou art my source. Thy grace is my sufficiency. Do you see how quickly the air clears? The boss loses jurisdiction over your sleep. The ex-spouse releases your afternoons. The politician, the judge, the parent, even the teacher who scolded you in the 4th grade, each is returned a proper size, an instrument who acted as he or she could see in that hour, not a god on your altar. Loose him and let him go. And as you do, another bond snaps, the bond binding you to your history. Grievance had made yesterday a power. Release returns it to a picture without a scepter. You are no longer extracting supply from a person. You are consenting to presence. Thy grace is my sufficiency. Thy grace is sufficient for me. I recall a young man who swore his future was chained to a partner who ruined everything. He carried that partner in his pocket as a talisman of injury, touching it 10 times a day to prove it still hurt. We sat very quiet until the stillness was heavier than his words. And then I asked him to say, I loose him and let him go. He does not owe me my future. God is my future. He did not feel fireworks. He felt foolish. But he kept the agreement morning and evening for 7 days. On the 8th day, the phone rang from a quarter unrelated to business, a cousin inviting him to a gathering where the exact avenue of his new work opened. He had not begged the partner to repair the past. He had stopped enthroning the partner as source. Grace chose a channel and the man was free. Now hear this carefully, because we must not turn release into moral gymnastics. Forgiveness is not a performance by which you earn holiness. Forgiveness is the recognition that divine sonship cannot be injured. I and my Father are one. If that is true, then what was injured? Not sonship, only the image of a self that had crowned man as power. Father, forgive them was not a bargain. It was a revelation. They know not what they do to themselves. When you know your being is hid with Christ in God, you do not need restitution to be whole. You are whole, and wholeness reveals the avenues through which any needed adjustment appears. So the practice is simple, and it is daily. Sit in the quiet, breathe, and speak within. I loose him, I loose her, I loose them, and let them go. I cancel the silent contracts. No man owes me anything. All my fountains are in thee. Then be still. Let the mind fall into the presence that is cause. From that stillness, move into your day without claiming debts, without issuing invoices, without policing love. You will find that freedom begins precisely there, when you release people from being the power behind your peace or your pain. The problem loses its breath, and the grace that is fulfillment walks in by doors you had not known to knock upon. Father, forgive them. Hear it as the Master spoke it, and then hear the unveiling. They know not what they do to themselves. You see, harm is ignorance turned outward. It rebounds upon the one who believes in a second power. It does not enter your being where God is. All. No. No. Injury is not a force. It is a verdict rendered by the lower court of appearances, and that court has no jurisdiction over sonship when God is the only power. Where would injury find the door? I and my Father are one. Oneness with the source is immunity in the place that counts. Let us put it this way. Events may bruise the picture words spoken falsely, contracts broken, hands that should have helped left idle, but they cannot write upon your being. The nations of the world consult the event and swear to its authority. The kingdom consults the Father and rests in his verdict. Your life is hid with Christ in God. Hidden, not exposed to the weather of other minds. Hidden, not negotiated by the tempers of men. Therefore, the sentence called injury is a false ruling. The higher court of spirit reverses and remands with this note: no second power found. Who shall lay anything to the charge of God's elect? It is God that justifieth. If God is justified, who can condemn? If God has joined, what can separate? Who shall separate us from the love of Christ? You see, not tribulation, not distress, not peril, not sword, not the rumor or the loss, because in the realm that is cause, there is only one. Now, do not mistake this for naivete. Wisdom still walks the road of prudence. You may change the locks. You may choose a different physician. You may decline the slanderer's table. You may pick up your tools and build anew, but you will do it without enthroning the event as law. You will do it from identity, not from injury. No weapon that is formed against thee shall prosper, and every tongue that shall rise against thee in judgment thou shalt condemn. Do you hear? The weapon may be formed, the tongue may rise, but it shall not prosper in the place where your life is kept. The condemnation there is not vengeance. It is the light that shows the false witness to be false. Forgiveness then ceases to be moral gymnastics. It becomes the recognition of fact. Sonship cannot be injured by another power because there is no other power. So we can say and mean it, Father, forgive them. They know not what they do to themselves. We stop rehearsing the scene looking for proof we are small. We withdraw consent from the courtroom that made the decree. And with that, the chest lightens. Tears may come, let them. They are the last waters sluicing the debris from the channel. In that quiet, you discover you no longer need an apology to be whole. Wholeness was never rented from man. It is your birthright in God. I remember a woman whose name was dragged in an office whisper chain. She had evidence, counter evidence, a strategy to fight by lunch. We sat, and in the stillness she said only, Father, forgive them. They know not what they do to themselves. My life is hid with Christ in God. She went to work and did the day's task. No campaign, no groveling explanations. 2 weeks later, a supervisor called, no confession from the whisperers, no public spectacle, but the whole assignment shifted to a better team, the sting removed, and with it her fear of people's power. She understood the greater miracle. Even if the circumstance had lingered, it could not brand her. The fire had lost heat because the false verdict had been vacated. So the practice becomes very plain. When the old ache rises and names itself me, stop, be still, say within, no, no, that is not my name. I and my Father are one. My life is hid with Christ in God. Father, forgive them. They know not what they do to themselves. Open my eyes to the wholeness that is. Do not consult the bruise for truth. Do not take your temperature by yesterday's weather. Sit in communion. Thy grace is my sufficiency. Thy grace is sufficient for me until the inward verdict stands and the event is reduced to its true size. A passing picture that may ask for wisdom but cannot decree identity or future. Hold this as a daily agreement. I refuse the false verdict against sonship. I will not let a man's act certify my being, nor a moment's pain prophesy my path. I loose them and let them go, not to excuse ignorance, but to deny it jurisdiction over God's child. And from this ground of invulnerability, you will find it natural in the very moment of panic to make the exact pivot, not fix this, but recognize only power. That is where crisis collapses, because the witness for a second power fails to appear, and the case is dismissed for lack of cause. Now let us walk into the moment itself. The phone rings, unknown number, clinic name on the screen. An envelope sits with red letters. Final notice. A message pings. We need to talk now. Your stomach flips. The blood quickens. The old machinery reaches for the wrench called fix this. No. No. This is where the line is drawn. Do not let fear sprint unaided. Interrupt the race with a holy refusal. There is not another power. God is the only power. You see, the very first seconds decide the courtroom in which you will stand, world logic with its two powers, or kingdom logic with one. Step one, name the claim. What power is this appearance presenting? Is it the tyranny of time? Too late? Not enough hours? Is it the specter of lack? No funds? No help? No door? Is it the threat of sickness? This body can overthrow my life. Is it the public square? Reputation has authority. Their words are law. Is it the boss's frown? Human authority can decree my future. Say it honestly. This picture claims a power other than God. Only when you name the counterfeit stamp can you refuse it passage. Step 2, withdraw consent. Do not argue with the picture. Do not arm wrestle shadows. Simply deny it law. Quietly, firmly. No, no. You are not power. You are an appearance. God alone is cause, law, life, presence. Be still and know that I am God. Say within, I do not grant you jurisdiction. I stand in the one. The nations of the world take thought for such things. You will not. Take no thought for your life. What ye shall eat, what ye shall put on. Fear not, little flock, for it is your Father's good pleasure to give you the kingdom. You are not denying the invoice or the diagnosis or the email's words. You are refusing them a scepter. The pivot is not denial of circumstance. It is denial of the circumstance's claim to be a power. Step 3, turn to communion. Sit, or if the corridor is your chapel, stand still inside and breathe one sentence until it is more real than the screen in your hand. Thy grace is my sufficiency. Thy grace is sufficient for me. Then, Father, reveal thyself here as sufficiency. Illumine me. No demands, no bargains. Open me. In quietness and in confidence shall be your strength. Let the inner tide change. You may feel nothing more than a soft loosening in the chest. Good grace prefers gentle signs. Peace, be still. The silence is not empty. It is presence recognized. Step 4, accept right action without strain. From this communion, move as you are moved. Grace does not paralyze. Grace guides. Perhaps you will call the clinic calmly and receive the next right appointment. Perhaps you will set a boundary clear, loving, without drama. Perhaps you will apologize, no groveling, just truth spoken from sonship. Perhaps you will rest, literally close the laptop, for the wisdom is not in the hurry. Perhaps you will take a treatment medicine as an instrument, not a master, for life is God. Not by might, nor by power, but by my spirit, saith the Lord. You see, you will act, but you will not worship the condition by treating it as source. People, processes, prescriptions, channels, without chains. Let us put it this way. In the kingdom, right action is the effect of recognition, not the substitute for it. First, the refusal of a second power. Then the communion in which the one is felt. Then the step that meets you as already included. Stand still and see the salvation of the Lord, and then walk through the sea he parts. Your email will be written with a clear head instead of a clenched jaw. Your payment plan will appear without self-contempt. Your conversation will end the fight that fear hoped to prolong. And if a wave rises again, repeat the pivot. No, until the heart forms this reflex. Not fix this, but recognize only power. Practice this blueprint in small things so it is yours in large things. A delay at a light, a terse text, a minor ache, use them as the training ground. Name the claim, withdraw consent, commune, accept the step as given. Soon you will find that tomorrow's fear has lost its teeth in today's recognition. And even when winds rise, your word is steady. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. In that recognition, the problem cannot remain a power. It becomes what it always was, an appearance, fading before the one. Communion, not combat. Hear that and let your shoulders drop. Be still and know that I am God. The word is grace. The word is grace. Prayer, as we are learning it, is not shouting orders across a battlefield. It is sitting beside a stream at dusk, listening to water that is older than your worry. It is standing under stars with a friend whose silence is fuller than any speech. It is not report making. It is presence recognized. Two souls, well, let us put it this way. One soul revealing itself as your very being, resting without bargaining. He leadeth me beside the still waters. He restoreth my soul. You see, in that quiet, the need to manage outcomes unthreads itself, because the one who is cause is felt more real than the picture that clamored for remedy. No. We are not advancing the problem to the throne by rehearsing it in religious language. But in prayer I must describe it, mustn't I? No. When ye pray, use not vain repetitions. Words, when they circle the same mountain of fear, become incantations to a second power. Each retelling is a little vote of confidence in the idol called circumstance. We unintentionally deputize the very picture we hope to dismiss. We say, Father, the pain, the lack, the deadline, and we think we have honored God, but we have really baptized the shadow. The nations of the world take thought in that way. You shall not. Take no thought for your life. Fear not, little flock, for it is your Father's good pleasure to give you the kingdom. What then shall we say? Very little, and when we speak, let it be door opening, not problem fortifying. Open my eyes. Be the light within me. Let me feel thy peace as law. Speak, Lord, for thy servant heareth. Thy grace is my sufficiency. Thy grace is sufficient for me. These are not magic phrases. They are keys that unlock the awareness of presence. They do not tell God what God does not know. They free you from the compulsion to explain darkness to light. Say them once, twice, and then sit. Sit as you would with a beloved on a hillside, hand in hand, content with the shared air and the cricket's hymn. No speeches, mutual presence. The silence is not empty, it is love unlabored. And what will you feel? Often only this: urgency loosening its fist, breath lengthening, the inner weather turning from gust to breeze. There may be no angelic choir, and yet the tyranny of what if begins to starve for lack of oxygen. In quietness and in confidence shall be your strength. Clarity rises, not as a whip, but as a light at your feet, just enough for the next stone in the path. The call you must make becomes obvious. The apology becomes safe. The rest becomes lawful. The medicine, if needed, becomes an instrument and no longer a master. It is not might. It is not power. It is spirit revealing that the river was already moving, with or without your paddling. Make this practical. Morning, before the headlines. Evening, before the lamp is dark. 10 minutes, 15, if it pleases you. Sit, close the door of words. If the mind begins its bulletin, the bill, the scan, the meeting, smile and answer softly. No, no. Then only open my eyes. Be the light within me. Thy grace is sufficient. Let the stillness have you. If a phrase returns, keep it simple. No argument, no debate. When you rise, do the work of the hour without managing tomorrow. Sufficient unto the day is the evil thereof. And I add, sufficient unto the day is the grace thereof. As this becomes the habit of your inner house, you will see why the first refusal, you never had a problem, was not cruelty but liberation. For when the presence is felt, the appearance loses its vote. And without your consent, the second power cannot stand. The kingdom of God is within you. There in the quiet, the word is grace, and grace being fulfillment makes the problem unnecessary to fight. You will not conquer outcomes. You will outgrow their claim to law, and day by day, without drum or trumpet, you will find the old reflex of management replaced by a simpler certainty. God is the only power, and in that presence, peace is not achieved. It is revealed. Now let us live this where the weather changes. Markets will rise and fall. Bodies wake strong and sometimes wake stiff. Relationships blossom and sometimes prune. Headlines will shout their alarms as if they were trumpets of destiny. No, no, we do not deny the weather. We deny the weather a scepter. It is the Father's good pleasure to give you the kingdom, not when the chart is up and the report benign, but now. The kingdom is not the promise of a windless world. It is the certainty that wind is not law. My kingdom is not of this world. You see, the scenes may move across the stage, but we will not anoint the scene as cause. Immunity, then, is not the skill of reciting truth faster than the storm. Immunity is a consciousness lived until it becomes the new natural, a pathway worn soft by daily feet. God is the only power. Thy grace is my sufficiency. Thy grace is sufficient for me. One power thought must be practiced like breathing, like walking. You do not learn it in a paragraph and keep it in a notebook. You carry it into the grocery line and the boardroom and the midnight hour. The nations of the world take thought for tomorrow and shout their strategies. You, little flock, will be very quiet and very sure. In quietness and in confidence shall be your strength. And this does not make you careless. It makes you guided. Grace does not leave particulars to chance. Grace governs particulars without panic. In all thy ways acknowledge him, and he shall direct thy paths. So you will adjust a budget without enthroning lack. You will change a physician without worshiping medicine. You will repair a roof without bowing to the storm. You will cancel an engagement in wisdom or keep it in faith as guidance, witnesses within. The step will come as effect, not as the God you hope will save you, not by might nor by power, but by my spirit. You see, when fear stops writing the to-do list, wisdom has a chance to pick up the pen. Let us put it this way. You cease managing outcomes and begin recognizing presence. And in that recognition, right order appears. The client leaves. Another avenue opens. The body complains. Rest, treatment, and peace meet you as instruments. Life remains God. A friendship shifts. You bless and loose without debt. Owe no man anything but to love one another. Do you feel how that removes the hooks? You are not held in pawn by the market, by the lab report, by the committee, by the news cycle, channels without chains, instruments without idolatry. Except the Lord build the house, they labor in vain that build it. But if he builds, even your hammer is sanctified. Now, about the world and its arguments, do not enter every courtroom to defend grace. You need not convince your neighbor, your partner, your office. Live it. Live it, and let the aroma of rest preach. No man can come to me except the Father which hath sent me draw him. We do not proselyte. We do not meddle. We bear witness. If a question is given you to answer, answer from peace. If a door is closed, bless it and keep walking. God knows the need of his own. He brings the student to the teaching, the patient to the practitioner, the worker to the work. Don't decide who or what. Let grace choose its own channels. So, when the screen screams red and the ticker glows fear, say within, no, no. When the joint aches and memory whispers a name, say within, no, no. You are not power. You are an appearance. Then turn to communion. Be still and know that I am God. Out of that stillness, you will write the letter, make the call, take the pill, cancel the plan, keep the plan, but not as a beggar of a second power. You will move as a son moves in his Father's house. Who shall separate us from the love of Christ? Not markets, not microbes, not murmurs. Your life is hid with Christ in God. This is our integration. One power as the law of your mind. Grace as your sufficiency in the very place you stand. People as instruments, never sources. Grievances loosed, debts canceled. Forgiveness not as a performance, but as a recognition that sonship cannot be touched. We have walked from the first refusal. No, that isn't the problem. Through the diagnosis of appearances, the masters take no thought. The parent and child correction, and the revelation that grace arrives as fulfillment. We have loosed them and let them go. We have practiced the pivot. We have entered prayer as communion, not combat. Now you will live this in a changing world without being changed by its claim to power. Hold this as the air of your day. I am not escaping conditions. I am free from their claim to law. Thy grace is my sufficiency. Thy grace is sufficient for me. And with that breath, we are ready to seal this in a daily agreement that proves what was true from the first. You never had a problem because there is no second power to give it substance. So we return to the first shock and find it now to be comfort, not offense. No, you never had a problem. You had a moment of believing in another power. The shape on the water was a shadow, and the fear was your consent to it. I am the Lord, and there is none else. If God is the only power, where would the second power lodge? In belief only. Withdraw belief, and the image thins. Consent to presence, and the sea is glass. You see, this is not bravado. This is our daily agreement. The word is grace. The word is grace. Let us put it very simply for the day that is in your hands. Morning before your feet touch the floor, before the nations of the world offer their headlines, say within, thy grace is my sufficiency. Thy grace is sufficient for me. God's grace is filling this space, this mind, this body, this day. There is no other power. Seek ye first the kingdom of God and his righteousness, and all these things shall be added unto you. Do not plan outcomes. Open to presence. Open my eyes. Be the light within me. Sit a minute with it. No bargains. No inventory. One power. One presence. One life. Midday, when a message, a twinge, a face tries to reclaim a scepter. Do not argue. Refuse jurisdiction. Quietly, firmly. No. You are not power. You are an appearance. Be still and know that I am God. Breathe one sentence until panic loosens its hand. Thy grace is sufficient. In that quiet, accept the next given step without worshiping the channel. Make the call, sign the form, take the medicine, drink the water channels without chains. Not by might, nor by power, but by my spirit, saith the Lord. You are not fixing the world. You are recognizing the one and letting action flow as effect. Evening close the ledgers. Loose him and let him go. Loose her. Loose them. Owe no man anything but to love one another. Say within, I cancel all silent contracts. No man owes me apology, safety, reputation, success. Father, forgive them. They know not what they do to themselves. My life is hid with Christ in God. Return persons to instruments, outcomes to pictures, and rest identity in the one. Then sleep without tomorrow's arithmetic. Take therefore no thought for the morrow. Sufficient unto the day is the evil thereof. And I add, sufficient unto the day is the grace thereof. Now, do not attempt to solve your life in an afternoon. The kingdom grows as a measure and an attainment. Choose one situation today, only one, a bill, a meeting, an ache, a conversation. Practice the sequence, morning sufficiency, midday no, evening loosing. Test it once and watch. By their fruits ye shall know them. The fruit you will notice first is not the outer change, but the inner verdict changing courts. The case against you is dismissed for lack of cause. The witness for a second power fails to appear. And then, as grace chooses its channels, adjustments come sometimes swift, sometimes soft, always as fulfillment, never as fragments. Hold this agreement as the air of your day. God's grace is filling this space, this mind, this body, this work, this home. There is no other power. Repeat it until it is the new natural. Repeat it until the habit of panic forgets your address. If fear rises, answer as the master. Fear not, little flock, for it is your Father's good pleasure to give you the kingdom. And if the wind lifts again, you will find yourself saying, almost without effort, the Lord is my shepherd. I shall not want. We seal this quietly, gratefully. Father, we thank thee that thou hast heard us and that thou hearest us always. Tomorrow is not our concern, but thine. Our part is this hour's recognition. We release people and outcomes. We abide in grace. We withdraw belief from every other claim. And in that abiding, the problem cannot stay solid. The word is grace. The word is grace. Thy grace is my sufficiency. Thy grace is sufficient for me. Now rest. Walk softly. Let God be God.